So hi everyone. Where have we gone? So our funded project is Coastal Explorers, so engaging communities with the geomorphology of their coast. And this project is building on something we're working on already called the 360 Lab. So learning in geoscience often requires 3D thinking and visualization of different landforms, whether these be like flood interventions, geological structures, or more. And arguably the best place to visualize these is outside in nature in the field, rather than on 2D images on flat screens or on paper. But with the advent of like affordable prosumer technology, such as iPads that have laser scanners on and drones, we can gather an enormous amount of data to process and use for research, outreach, and education. So there is a greater need, as has already been identified within this webinar, for online access to physical places, especially when home learning is more common than ever. So being able to view, interact with, and navigate environments helps for a deeper understanding of topics, as well as for those who are visual learners and struggle working from these flat screens or from paper. So what we aim to do as part of this project is establish an asset library for 3D models and 360 videos for the East Riding Coast, and whether these be used in like augmented reality, computer viewing, or 3D printing. But the aim is for teachers and members of the public to have a little explore places they can't necessarily access. So the coastline is often inaccessible for a lot of the UK's population, and 60% of people live greater than 5 kilometres from the coast, which is roughly 40 million people. And access to blue-green spaces have been further restricted during COVID-19, yet outdoors in these spaces are known to be integral to health and well-being. So the area that we're focusing on is the Holderness Coast, which is one of the world's fastest receding coastlines, and there's an average annual erosion rate of 2 meters per year, and it's highly geomorphologically active. Coastal retreat here has been recorded since Roman times, with a strip of 3.5 miles wide and over 30 settlements estimated to have been lost to the North Sea in the last 2,000 years. So this orange bit on the map here that you can see is the area that's been lost to erosion, and all these little dots are all the different villages that have been lost. So stories in this heritage have been passed on through social history in the local communities, and it's likely that the impact of these morphological processes not been more keenly felt by local populations anywhere else in the UK. On top of this, the rates of retreat are accelerating due to climate change, driving changes in these wave climates alongside sea level rise, and placing these vulnerable communities literally on the edge of the cliff. So to build on what Chloe was saying about CoastSnap before, we're in the process of installing posts along this coastline as part of the East Riding CoastSnap project. So it engages citizens and promotes outdoor active education with a mixture of geography, geology, climate change through producing these engaging and interactive resources. So on the right here, we can see where we're planning on putting posts, and this is just a handful of them that we're building on as part of this project. So it goes all the way at the top from near Farnborough Head and all the way down to Spurn Point. So the purpose of the project that we're working on here is to capture this geomorphological heritage. We want to augment the data provided by CoastSnap, so those images, through capturing these interactive 360 videos by generating 3D models from drone footage. And this allows people to access the coastline who can't necessarily get to that, whether that be for social reasons, such as don't drive or can't get there because they live on the other side of the world, for example. So this allows people to experience CoastSnap not only through those images, but also through 360 narrated videos and annotated imagery. So our aim is to get not only geomorphologists and other specialists from the university to talk about what they see in the images, but also to get locals to tell their stories and their tales through what it was like 50 years ago when they were growing up. And we also want to produce some uncrewed aerial vehicle 3D models, because they're so good at communicating things that are quite difficult to see. So a sample of our current assets that we've got as part of the 360 Lab. So we focus on flood risk management at the moment, because that's what my PhD is on. And this is sort of a few different examples. So on the left here, this is a little reach that Chris and I use in some of our numerical modeling that's been captured with a drone in 2019. And on the right and at the bottom are examples of leaky dams, and these were captured with an iPad Pro, the new LiDAR sensor. And these took sort of, the one on the left took like a day to capture, but these iPad data took probably a couple of minutes to capture, which is just brilliant, especially if we can give teachers and members of the public this technology and this ability to sort of develop these models and host them online. So we're also working on a hedgerow project, which is identifying hedgerows across the East Riding. So producing these resources that people can sort of look at and navigate with and have a play with and understand a little bit better about their local environment. For example, this one at the top right here, hedgerows act as wildlife corridors. And when you get a gap, sometimes the animals can't get any further. So this central bit acts as an area of isolated woodland. And what we want to do is just be able to communicate how prevalent this is across the East Riding. And all these models can be accessed through this QR code or through this link on the page here, if anyone's interested in looking at them. So our 3D models as well can be annotated. So this is an example of the leaky dam, and we can put in basically whatever information we want. And these can be viewed on a phone, an iPad, a tablet, a desktop computer, and it doesn't take too much power away from the system because it's sort of a low resolution version of a higher resolution thing we'd use for like typical research. So these are just some examples of the annotations, and you can get the software to look differently at different perspectives, so you really get that 360-degree walk around that you would usually get in the field. And the reason why we think these are so important is these are some of the sites we're going to install CoastNav. And as you can see here, you can see the cliff and the shadow and the caravans that are potentially going to fall off the cliff in the next sort of 5 years or so as this retreats back. And although you can kind of see this on Google Earth, being able to navigate a 360-degree video or 3D model is really powerful for communicating that message that people might not necessarily understand. And this is the same for Mapleton, where you can really see the impact of those coastal defences here and how it's reduced the amount of erosion protecting the village. However, the erosion is still occurring down the beach. And making use of this drone footage is especially important when you can't necessarily see things on the ground as you could from above. So these are some examples of some sand dunes south of Bridlington, and we can make them out through Google Earth, but people visiting and seeing the coast at that point might not be able to see that. So what we want to do is provide people with a QR code that they'd be able to scan for each post where you would put your phone to take the picture. And then they'd be able to see sort of those 3D models nearby so they can have an explore if they don't have access to a drone or aerial imagery for whatever reason. And when you compare, just look up to the next one, when you compare sort of the interactability of these 3D models in comparison to just Google Earth, and how you can click on the different annotations and it zooms you into different perspectives to really help you tell that story. It puts the power in the person's hand of being able to navigate the things that they're most interested in, whether it's just having a play or putting this in the room with you and having a walk around. So some of the other stuff we're doing as well is creating these 360-degree videos and annotating those to make these guided tours around the different locations. So I don't have one for the coast yet, but I do have one for a hedgerow gap. So this is just a screenshot of one of the videos we've got. People can explore the drone survey that we've done by simply clicking on the little drone up here, or get some more information about the hedgerow gap by clicking down here. And the purpose behind this is to, again, give people that sense of being at the location that they might not necessarily get through the imagery alone, and putting it in their hands to navigate around the different areas, look at the different weather conditions at the different sites, depending on the days that they were taken, as well as creating like a whole experience of looking at it from the ground and from someone who's actually visiting's perspective. So our resources are going to be promoted directly into schools with some of the existing contacts that we've got, as well as through an RGS conference and releasing this information on social media. And we've also been lucky to receive a little bit of money to develop a higher education course in collating all this data together and using it for education, outreach and research. So the whole point is so that we can train undergraduates or people from different industries as a CPD course in how to best annotate these 3D models, 360 videos, as well as going out and capturing them themselves and using them to tell their story in the same way that we want to tell the story of the coast and sort of preserve that heritage. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening.